join us as we explore the stunning landscape of the Highlands. We'll be renting a motorboat to navigate the Caledonian Canal across northern Scotland. We pass lochs, beautiful lakes and of course the famous Loch Ness. How does everything work and what was the weather like?
We rented our boat from Calais Cruises, a company that has been providing boat rentals here since 1969. The harbour is just a half-hour walk from the Inverness railway station, and if you're driving, you can park for free at the harbour quay during your trip. A taxi from Inverness Airport is also quite affordable. The boat we rented is called Great Glen and measures 35 feet, just over 10 meters in length, providing ample space for 4 adults. Calais Cruises doesn't require formal boat driver training, but they recommend having at least 2 reasonably fit and active adults, aged 21 or older, to manage the boat throughout the trip. They offer full training on site before departure, and there are numerous of training videos available on their website for preparation. However, we advise against being completely inexperienced in boat operation before the trip. Let me introduce you to the crew. Andreas, our captain, and my younger brother. He is the most passionate about boats and has also proven to be an excellent instructor. Maria, Andreas' wife, served as first mate. Both have completed a boat driver's license course, and a few years ago they navigated the Urquhart Canal in Sweden. Emma-Lena, that's me. I'm not particularly interested in boats, but I do love traveling, usually in our motorhome. Hans is my husband, and we are the ones who made this film. Hans enjoys photography, especially capturing nature.
Nice day today.
Picked a perfect day for it.
Right? Really? Ja, det här är första slussen nu då, och den heter typ Loch, något åt det hållet, lite skotskt sådär. Och vi ska slussa så här 25-30 cm uppåt. Det blir en hisnande resa. Ja.
The Caledonian Canal was constructed between 1803 and 1822, stretching from Inverness in the east to Fort Williams in the west. It was designed by Scottish engineer Thomas Telford, who also helped build the Göta Canal in Sweden. So the two canals share similarities, especially in the design of the locks. We've now arrived in the village of Fort Augustus. Here, there's a staircase of 5 locks that connects Loch Ness to the rest of the canal.
Ja, det blir spännande att ta första slussen här.
The canal took 12 years longer to build than Telford had planned, and ended up costing 3 times more. By the time it was finished, the shipping industry had changed, and the canal became obsolete. But it provided jobs, and today it brings tourist income. You can also paddle, cycle and walk along the canal. Watching the boats pass through the locks has also become a popular tourist attraction.
Fort Augustus, with only 600 to 700 residents, is still the largest community along the canal. The town features several restaurants, a few cozy shops and a small convenience store for groceries. We enjoyed a beer and some crisps at this charming pub.
Now let's rewind a bit and talk about the practical details. We were sitting in our family house on the Swedish west coast planning the trip. How long should each day's stage be? Where could we spend the nights and stock up supplies?
Ja, det är liksom, man går igenom först ett par svingbroar och sen den här slussen.
Before departure, everyone had to watch a half-hour safety film from Calais cruises.
Bookcharge for any reason during your holiday, use the number in the handbook. This is a
We made sure to bring plenty of food for the trip, as there are very rural areas along the canal with limited access to shops and restaurants.
A canal fee is included in the boat rental, which also covers overnight stays in selected guest harbours. The boat was equipped with 2 small extra motors at the bow and stern, which could push the boat in or out of the dock, making manoeuvring easier. As a key holder, you have access to facilities like toilets, showers and fresh water. There were also electricity stations available, but they came at an extra cost. We managed without additional electricity, as the engine charged the leisure battery while we were driving.
Loch Ness is a long, narrow and deep lake, said to hold as much water as all the lakes in England and Wales combined. It's also incredibly beautiful, with mountains creating layers of silhouettes on the horizon.
Vi har nu kommit ut till Loch Ness. Det är oerhört stilla här på sjön och det är nog rätt ovanligt att man både har solsken och ett glittrande vatten.
And then there's Nessie, of course, the sea monster with a nickname. Did we see her? Well, at least in the souvenir shops. In the village of Domadroshit, there's a Loch Ness center that tells you all about the hunt for her. It's a very deep lake, but nutrition poor. So, what would she survive on? During the trip we came up with a new theory. Maybe she feeds on blown off caps.
At Loch Ness is Urquhart Castle, Fortifications have existed here since the Middle Ages. From the guest harbour, it's an hour's walk to the castle. Maria and Andreas visited and felt it was well worth the effort. In the evening, we all dined at the Fiddler's restaurant, which we found both excellent and charming, with whiskey as their speciality. Highly recommended, but it's best to call ahead and book a table. At another long narrow lake, Loch Ness, stands Invergarry Castle. This ruin is from the 17th century. It played a role in both clan feuds and the Jacobite rebellions of the 18th century. After the Battle of Culloden, it was destroyed and never rebuilt. There is a simple pontoon dock nearby, making it easy to visit the ruin.
And then there was the weather. To say it was variable is an understatement. Every day and sometimes even every hour, the conditions would shift from sun to rain and back to sun again. This is a technical challenge for the canal itself. In other smaller canals, the water supply is often a concern, but here it's the opposite. Managing excess water is the issue. To handle this, there are various catchment areas and a few aqueducts in place.
The canal runs through the Great Glen, a long steep valley that was geologically formed by an ancient fault. It stretches for about 100 kilometers in an almost perfectly straight line between Inverness and Fort William. This region is home to several deep elongated lakes, including Loch Ness. In fact, the lakes make up 2/3 of the canal, so only about 1/3 had to be dug. A particularly special part of the canal is Lagan Avenue, located between Loch Ness and Loch Lochy. It's surrounded by a lush forest that was planted when the canal was constructed. Spruce saplings from Sweden were also planted along the canal to help reduce the risk of flooding.
At this time in summer, there weren't many birds along the canal. However, we were lucky enough to witness an osprey chasing and catching a fish.
The porters were always incredibly helpful. They kept an eye on the larger ships moving through the canal and made sure to plan safe meeting points to avoid any issues. In addition to the locks, we also passed under some low bridges. Here too, there were attendants who assisted with the passage. After a week, we are now almost back in Inverness again. So let's hear some final thoughts from the crew.
Jag tycker det har varit en jättefin resa. Jag är ju så båtglad, så för mig har båten varit lite viktig att det har funkat så. Det har funkat oklanderligt. Båten har hållit, det har inte varit något strul med det. Vi har kunnat lägga till, det har gått väldigt bra med allt sånt där. Sen har vi haft alla sorters väder. Men faktiskt bättre väder än jag kunde tro. Nu är det otroligt fint här. Det är stilla på kanalen och vi möter 3 segelbåtar i rad här. Och det är blommor och lummigt och allting. Så att det har varit toppen faktiskt tycker jag.
Får ändå ge en eloge till min bror som har varit en bra skeppare och instruktör. Så jag har väl dragit i lite fler rep och tampar och linor än jag hade förväntat mig. Men det har varit trevligt.
Alla sorters väder och jättestor sjö och kanal. Och jag tycker det har varit toppen. Det har varit lite sorgligt faktiskt att det är slut. Men ändå lite skönt att allting har gått bra.
Jag tycker den här resan har varit riktigt trevlig tillsammans här. Och jag har haft många möjligheter att få fina fotografier och filma fina vyer och uppleva den här fantastiska kanalen.